What is going on, everybody? We've been covering the series of Daredevil because the new season is about to come out starting like March the 4th. And we are here to talk about episode 5 and 6. We'll see everybody else, including the Grand Moth, right after this.
You are
Right.
not the Grand Moff of LGRN.
You were not.
The Grand Moth is here.
No.
I even have a helmet over here.
I don't care.
What are you talking about? This old Vader bone hanging right behind me. But with all that being said, we're going to talk
are
about
not the Empire.
We could be. But here goes the thing. We're going to talk about Daredevil, episode 5 and episode 6. Episode 5 was The World on Fire, which I thought was a brilliant name for the episode since what happens at the ending of it. And starts out with our night nurse and Daredevil, almost getting it on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was getting hot and heavy, but it was also like a world fastest relationship ever.
Yeah.
So I think like 5 minutes later, they're already broke up. I was like, bro, what was that?
Yeah.
What was that? I'm gonna be honest with you. This will probably be one of the weakest things that's happened so far in this season. To me, is the fact that was so quick. Like, I think that could have been a cool little thing that you could have built up, and then when that tough decision's getting made, it's not like right off the cuff or like super early or soon. Like, it could have been like a little bit of a bigger impact, if you see what I'm saying. Like down the road, like an episode, something's very important happening and something, and then like that has to come out as well. Could have hit a little harder. So I would say that
will they or won't they type of trope.
Yeah, so they took that away by they would like the will they won't they kind of goes away with that too. I mean, I guess you could have a mystery of like, will they eventually like overcome this and be something, right? That would be the one thing you could have with this. But the will they or won't they kind of goes out the window because we know they will, right? Because they basically did, like they were there, and the only reason why it stops is because home dude's Daredevil's out there trying to get himself killed every episode.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much what it lays down to. But y'all have any other thoughts on that? Or
there's a whole storyline with her in the Luke Cage series that kind of like made me totally forget that this even happened to be in Daredevil, to be perfectly honest. So I was surprised that they kissed, and then I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. So yeah.
And right before, like, you call this like the cold open because the episode seemed to start a few minutes in, and then we get to the actual like pretty cool little intro they do. But we have the man with glasses, is what I call him. He comes up, talks to the brother that's still alive in the Russian mob, kind of gangster. And basically he's setting up the thing like, you basically trying to set it up that the man in the mask, which would be Daredevil, killed his brother, but we all know that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The man with glasses is Wesley.
Yeah.
Wesley, I guess it's a fitting name for something.
And the brother that survives is Vladimir, and that name becomes very important throughout the course of this episode because Daredevil is trying to find out about Vladimir. Where is Vladimir? So
it wasn't as gross, but it had that grossness where he kept the brother on the table with the head cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His like cleaning up his brother's body after they bring in the headless body. Just, I didn't need that.
Very ceremonial. Very ceremonial.
It's very ceremonial, yeah.
Then we get the Big Daddy Fisk in a scene where he's talking to the other kind of like groups that are leading certain different aspects and talking to them and saying that the one brother is dead. And that he had to do it, and then he kind of gives them, part of the plan and everything and what's going down. And I thought like this scene was kind of cool because of the older, and I think you said Chinese, right? So like the older Chinese lady is here in this scene, and like the interactions that she has with Fisk, and the way like Fisk again, even though he's like a total butthole bad guy is really super respectful to her and stuff like that, almost like if she was his grandmother kind of situation.
When
I
this
think that's Mhm.
came out in the MCU, because it was tangentially part of the MCU over on Netflix, they reference things. It's supposed to be in the same universe, but there's no crossover until like we're gonna get this Born Again season. Um, you could have made an argument because this came out right before Age of Ultron that Fisk was the best villain that they'd done in Marvel to that point. Because he's got layers, he's got depth, he's got nuance. He's not just a one note bad guy, and he's really interesting. And I love that, like, he has a love interest. Like, how many times do villains ever get love interests that actually like care about them and aren't like scared when they find out who they really are? Like,
right.
Fisk is very interesting, and his relationship with Vanessa is very interesting.
No, yeah, and with that is like the thing that I find that's really cool with it is that like you had this love story that's mainly saved for the good guy, but in this show so far, it's with the bad guy, right? And there's nothing inherently like wrong. He treats that lady with respect as well, and all this stuff, and like we find out, well, she's not as like a goody two shoes lady as you might would think from meeting her the first couple of times or whatever. She doesn't care. She finds out like pretty truthful, like in one of these episodes. It might be even in this episode we're talking about, or it's the next one.
It's this one, the end of this one.
Like she finds out that he's like basically a guy that's going to do things his own way, and everything else. But it's also really good when you have the bad guy who actually thinks he's in the right, and if you give him just enough reasoning behind that, to where you almost could argue, hell, he's almost right. Like that's what makes the bad guy even better because, he's doing things in his eyes to save the city, right? And he truly believes he can do that. Now, you don't agree with how he's going to do it or how he's going to get there, how he's going to get the power to be able to make those changes, but you understand, like he loves the city. He doesn't want to destroy it like usually a bad guy wants to blow everything up or destroy the whole world. He's actually wanting to save a city. Like that's his deal. Like he's almost got a hero quality to him, although he's being bad.
Yeah, and Vincent D'Onofrio gives a fantastic performance as Fisk. It's just he's so good, and I'm so glad he's back in the MCU.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Like going back and watching those first couple I'd already watched, and then watching these episodes that I haven't seen, just kind of reiterates that and stuff. Like I said, I'll admit, like I should have kept watching it. I shouldn't have just threw it to the side just because it technically wasn't part of the MCU at that point when this was going on. And that's the only reason why. It's because you have limited time to be able to watch things, even if they're good or not. And you got to kind of make choices. And at the time it was like, well, I probably only need to dedicate this much time into like what's going to be the story for like the MCU. And at the time, this wasn't part of it. Anybody got anything else on that particular part before we move on?
Well, remember she brought that gun to dinner.
Yeah.
To dinner. And she said, "You think I don't know who you are, So she knew who he was before she came to dinner, and she still went there. So she's willing to like try it out at least.
Well, she was there because they had the other date and stuff happened at that other date. So she was bringing her gun just for backup, just in case something that were to happen again.
Now,
she didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But we'll be moving to like one of my favorite scenes. This scene right here in concept might even to me be better than the hallway scene that everybody talks about. And that's when the couple of Russians in the taxi has one of the blind Chinese people, that's part of the thing. Basically, they're all blind, so they can't really see anything or tell anybody anything. And that's why they use them. Well, you got the one blind Chinese guy in the back, and he's just kind of like singing a little like hymn or whatever. And the other two guys park, they get out, and then he starts singing again. And then it shows the camera rotate to the front of the car, and Daredevil's just standing there. It goes back to the Chinese guy, and then slowly pans back to the front of the car, and Daredevil's missing. He's gone. I thought that was really cool. That was like basically they were like somebody on this team that made this show was like, you know what? I love slasher movies. So I am going to do this particular scene right here. because if you didn't know Daredevil was good, that would be like a scary scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he was the true bad guy, like he's standing in front of the car and then the camera moves just like it did back in the old days. You know, Jason Voorhees is standing out there with his machete and you see him out the window and then they move their head and come right back and he's gone already and you don't know where he's at. That happens in this scene. I thought that was like a really cool like touch to have in there. Because like I said, man, almost made Daredevil look like the bad guy, even though he's not, right? He's there sneaking up on the good guys.
Yeah. It's really phenomenal the way they filmed it. I don't know how they managed to do that. They must have had some like rotating camera attached to the ceiling in the taxi or something.
Yeah.
But it's really, really a coolly filmed scene.
Yep, I totally agree. Then we go into where we meet an older Latino woman that is talking to them because, you know, she's having these problems with these owners of these buildings trying to kick everybody out so they can build condos or whatever.
Talk to Senor Foggy.
Senor Foggy, you know, so they have their discussions. She's telling them about the problems and stuff. And of course, they're all about helping people. So they're going to try to help her out. Senior Foggy is getting sent down to the old firm that tried to actually hire them when they were graduating and getting out of
college.
They
interned. They interned.
Because they didn't want to work for some assholes. So they didn't take that job and they decided to go out on their own and do the thing that they're doing now. But yeah, I actually thought the older lady was a really cool touch. I liked her. She did very well in this whole thing. So I enjoyed her part completely in this entire episode or so. But yeah, anything before we move on from there?
Mrs. Cardenas will return. I will say that much. She's a cool character. I like that she's like needs their help and that this helps with moving the plot forward for like Karen and Foggy because they end up at her building and fixing stuff in her apartment and then she makes them dinner, makes them have a date. She's really cool, Mrs. Cardenas, and I'm glad that you liked her character because we'll see
the
her
girl,
again.
the girl that at the firm was his ex-girlfriend too.
Yeah.
Now I'm only going to bring up this next scene because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't very important per se, but it's like a part where Daredevil goes to the police station. He's trying to get some like information or whatever so that he can like look into some things. And like where the tenants are making complaints or whatever. And he's talking to this guy who's a pretty cool guy. And I thought this man was the tallest man in, you know, known history. I thought, but then he steps down because it was just raised. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, well, he's still that tall, but he ain't like the tallest man ever. I thought that was pretty
funny. You not? I got that.
I was like, damn, dude. I was like, he's like 7 inches taller than Daredevil, dude. Like, this dude should be a superhero. And then he steps off the edge there, and he's like, he's still taller. He's still taller.
It was an incredibly important scene, though, Justin. I don't know why you think it wasn't important.
Well, I got sidetracked.
He went there because he knew the dude was arrested.
Yeah, the one Russian dude was arrested, and this is where Daredevil, with his super hearing, figures out that Fisk has basically bought the police.
Yeah.
Well, when I said scene, I wasn't necessarily talking about that whole section. I was talking about like when he's just talking to the cop because he's talking to him about the tenants and stuff. But because he's there, you're right. That plays into the plot. He happens to be there for that reason. And then he ends up hearing Vladimir.
No, he went there for the reason to hear the guy. He just went to because the other person had hired them. So he went there for that, but he really was trying to hear what was going on.
And that wasn't Vladimir in the interrogation.
That was the other.
Well, he tried to find out about that whole gang, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's trying to find out about that gang, and then he ends up finding out we got it seems like every freaking cop in this show is like bad. None of them good.
He's got the whole police force.
Except that one guy.
Except the one, yeah. Officer Sullivan was not bought by Fisk at that point. But he died anyways.
Then we go into we got Foggy, Senor Foggy, and them show up at the old firm that they had job offers, but they didn't take it. And we meet one of the lawyers, I'm assuming, that works there. And
Marcy Stahl.
It's like, Bro, I ain't never seen a lawyer. Matt, have you ever seen a lawyer look that good?
No.
Nah, man. Ain't gonna lie, she kind of threw me out of the scene. I'm like, man, this shit ain't realistic. They usually old, fat, got the I call it the rubber neck.
Let me introduce you to my friend Angela. Let me introduce you to Angela. No, my friend Angela is she's very pretty.
And yeah, no.
So, but anyway, they have a thing. The whole point.
She was way too hot for Foggy, though. Way too hot.
But here goes the deal. Though. I understand why they did it, because it was one of those things. Like, Foggy's obviously into homegirl, and then this girl comes up, and she's got to look pretty good because they're trying to play on that, like, oh, Foggy's got a little bit of game. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was with her for a little bit, kind of deal, and then maybe even push. But they didn't really go into it, so I don't think that like it was like for a big thing, but almost like, oh, she might be a little jealous or curious. It's like, oh, Foggy.
Well, she did ask about her when they were eating, when they were having their date. She said,
that is true.
Foggy Bear.
They did kind of lean into there, like, yeah, what's old Foggy Bear about? They did actually lean into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So they put into that little old jealousy factor. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you talking to homegirl? How'd you know her?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So we do have that scene, and they go away, and then what is next up? So we got Daredevil. He shows up, and he's hiding out by the dumpster and gets that one cop and breaks his damn hand and gets a little piece of information from him. I mean, it was just pretty cool, like a little scene, and then we get back to Fisk and his
Detective Blake, the dirty cop that he gets the information from, had just been texted the locations of the Russian stuff that will become important later on.
Yeah,
that is pretty convenient, and then we dive into. We got a little scene where Fisk and his love interest hooks up, and they're about to go eat. Not that big of a thing. It was just showing that they were arriving at the place, and then we jump over to the Russian, and this is the girl's favorite scene right here, where he's like washing the body, but he also gets information from. We get information from one of the characters that we met. Like, I think it was episode 1, right? The guy, because he's the guy. He's like
Barrett.
That asshole that was like kicking the women into the damn crates or whatever
Turk
they were holding.
Barrett.
He was also the one. He was also the one that gave the gun to the guy that hit him, the dude with the bowling ball.
Yeah, Turk Barrett is a very fun, through line for a lot of these things. Yeah, he's a dirtbag, of course, but like he's a very fun through line for like a lot of the events that don't seem connected but are actually connected in this show.
Oh yeah, because he shows up, gives a piece of information to the Russian that kind of feeds into the fact that but he comes in with information that I thought was made the show more interesting, instead of us just having this one through line of, of course they try to frame Daredevil for killing his brother. But then he comes in with the information of like, no, it ain't, dog. One of my pals over here has got a chop shop, saw some brains hanging out the door in a very rich SUV. So then it puts in what Fisk might have been the one that took out his brother.
And Vladimir thinks that the man in the mask, Daredevil, works for Fisk.
But he obviously gets pissed off, and he tells his little coworker, you go get everything. The hand grenades, the missiles, everything. Go get anything you can think of.
Pit for $1 million for.
Yeah, puts out $1 million to find Daredevil, but he, like I said, he's also saying get everything. He's like, if you find Thanos, bring them on in. We need everything over here because we're about to go whoop somebody's ass. And then so we have that, and then we go into the scene that we was basically just talking about, where Senior Foggy and them show up at the apartment. They see what kind of destruction it's kind of in, because they were technically supposed to be doing repairs, but then all the repairmen left and then claimed, it's too dangerous, so we had to leave, kind of situation. And I'll let your girls talk about, your little Foggy, and I can't never remember her name. Old Blondie's
Karen. Her name is Karen.
What a bad pick! What a bad pick for a name. You know what I'm saying? Like,
this name was picked back in the comics way before being a Karen ever was a thing.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I like this little thing with Karen and Foggy. I think it's cute. They have a good rapport with one another. And we'll see where it goes from here. But their date got interrupted.
Big time.
Big time.
Well, before their date got interrupted, we go into the world's fastest relationship of all time because we're not even at the end of the episode yet. And Daredevil and the Night Nurse was sitting there chatting, and this is where the actual breakup already happens. They
I
already
don't know
showed
that they were ever actually together. I mean, they
they weren't.
kissed once.
kissed.
That's just about it.
Yes, that wasn't that wasn't like a let's do a little peck on the cheek, like oh wait,
No,
I'm around the country and the customs to give a little kiss because we arrive and meet each other kind of thing.
But
This
one
was
kiss doesn't make a relationship either.
bro. That kiss, bro. Listen,
Go ahead, Justin. Let me see what you
Yeah,
said.
we gotta hear this.
in my world, when a kiss like that happens, it's bedtime.
That's
And it
what happened with you and
doesn't
Brandi, right?
Right. It doesn't matter if it's lunchtime.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's
I
during
didn't hear when you said
brunch.
that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's during brunch. It doesn't matter if it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Whatever time of day it is, you get a kiss like that. There's kisses that's going to be happening in other places that we can't talk about on YouTube, if you get what I'm saying.
Can I introduce you to the world of television where kisses like that happen all the time?
Yeah.
Well,
They're not automatically dating. They may like each other and they give a kiss, but they're not.
Matt will agree 100% with me on this one. Even
I
in
will.
other television shows, when a kiss like this happens, let me just tell you, booty holes are getting seen. Okay.
Oh,
They're not.
And the reason why I even brought this up is because I technically forgot. So one of the things I was going to talk about is earlier when the one guy's getting interrogated, by the two dirty cops and everything, and they end up shooting his ass and whatever, and Daredevil heals it. I think that dude says something about asshole community or something. He said something about going to asshole jail. Oh, God. Yes, oh man. I literally said it last night when I was behind y'all and I was like trying to catch up watching the episode. I was like, did that guy just say what I just think he said? Yeah, he said it.
mm-hmm.
But we'll go back to the other love interests here while we're talking about booty holes. We'll go to Fisk over here.
Fisk and Vanessa.
Vanessa over here, which I really like Vanessa's character.
She's cool
so far. Yeah, I think she's pretty cool and stuff like that. She might be getting, along with the wrong man, but it is what it is. But you know what? To her, maybe it ain't the wrong man. Maybe she might have the same philosophy as he does. But they have a cool conversation, man. Like, and I'm loving these scenes. Like, sometimes this will be something I'd be like checking out. Oh, I got to go take a pee. I'll be back and see like the real stuff. But nah, man, this show's done. Like I said, it does a pretty good stuff. Like, even on maybe one story in a certain episode, maybe a little weaker. Like, it's still interesting though. It's not like bad. It's just, weaker than say the best of that episode. But yeah, Fisk and her had a pretty cool conversation. He pretty much guesses she has a gun. Then we find out that she doesn't care that he's possibly a man.
He doesn't guess that she has a gun. She tells him he has a gun.
Well, he
asked her straight out.
He guesses it, yeah.
Before she mentions it. He asked her straight out what kind of gun is in her purse.
I thought she had already told him that he did have a gun, and she.
No, he technically didn't know, but he let her know he knows without knowing, like that you got a gun. Like, what kind did you bring, kind of thing.
And I like how she handed it over to him, like to show that she felt comfortable. She's like, "Here, I don't need it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. He must not like 22s because of the way he kind of tossed it in his little jacket pocket over there. He was like, "This gun's shit. This is a doo-doo gun right here. We got to have like real calibers here." But anyway, moving on to Senor Fogay and them eating that. Boy, he really loves that lady's cooking because he asked for Vanessa late like during this. But
Karen's.
this is Karen. I'm gonna mess up every freaking time, man. I'm not good with, not good with names. But anyway, he asked for Karen's food, and they start eating, and that's whenever the explosive. Well, actually, it doesn't happen right there, but it's about to happen. So We have Daredevil because he knows the locations conveniently on the phone of the guy that he beat up earlier. So he shows up, starts beating up on another guy.
But he doesn't know he doesn't know what's gonna happen though. Like he doesn't know.
Oh yeah. No, he doesn't know what's about to happen. Like he's going in there to take these guys out one by one. But as that happens and that occurs, we have one of the blind Chinese man showing up for like a delivery, and everybody's kind of like getting all their guns and stuff because they were planning on starting this little war. And turns out he wasn't really he was a delivery guy, but not in the delivery service that they get accustomed to. Because usually I think he either drops off or picks up drugs. Well, this time he's delivering a bomb. And
this is the special favor from Madame Gao that Fisk was asking about her earlier.
Yeah, bro, they really
escorted her to the car.
Yeah, they really love their lead honcho there because this guy don't even hesitate. He just shows up, pulls out the little button, and like blows up.
Blows himself up.
Yeah, luckily for I guess it wouldn't. Well, obviously the Russian monster gets the hell out of here. He notices just in time and he's able to jump across. He still gets hurt like others do in this particular thing, but he doesn't like blow up or anything like that because he's able to get out of there. Not really get out of there, but he's able to get behind some walls that protects him.
Well, he gets hurt.
He
he definitely gets hurt. He's like crawling out of there, barely moving. And then we got some face touching by Senor Fogay and Karen. They touch
that part was weird to me. She was like, I just want to know how some blind guy would see me. Like, what would?
Yeah. Why is she doing that with Foggy? Why does
that's why exactly? Like, you want to be with Matt? Like, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be playing around with Senor Fogay. Look, he can go back to that lawyer friend of his. But with that being said, the explosion happens. Everybody gets hurt, including the old Latina lady. Man.
Yeah. Mrs. Cardenas.
Mrs. Cardenas has to go to the hospital because they almost got blown up. But we also see Fist and his love interest looking over the city. And that's why this episode, World on Fire, makes sense because it wasn't just that one location where Daredevil happened to be at.
It was all four.
It was all four of them goes up in
flames.
Also,
that's how he says he sees the world on fire. He said that when he was talking to Night Nurse.
Claire. Yeah. And they showed us basically what he sees all the time, which is just fire, which is be terrifying, I think.
And then we see our man showing up with the man in glasses, and we end up finding out that he got paid some big money to go in there and spread the lie, which was interesting, like I said, because technically it's Fisk's guy that told him to go say it's Fisk. But they literally say that, and we find out that he does that because he knows exactly how the Russian's going to react.
Yeah.
He's going to gather all those people together. He's going to start getting his guns together to go out and do whatever. So he knew with 4 bombs, he was basically going to take out their whole organization at once. And the episode ends on basically a cliffhanger because Daredevil's beating up on the Russian guy there. So we think he's like, oh shit, he's going to kill him right now. But it ain't happening because the cops show up. And that's where the episode ends.
But no, didn't it end because it exploded too? He got exploded and they were knocked out.
Yeah. He was getting close to the door of the building, and then when the explosion happened, he had the guy in front of him. The guy and the door basically shielded him from the explosion and the fire.
Yep.
But yeah, he's beating up on Vladimir, trying to get information out of him, and then the cops show up. And this gets interesting at the beginning of episode 6. But this was a good episode. I like this episode a lot.
Yeah, if y'all want to give y'all's quick score on this particular episode real quick, and we'll go ahead and hit that next one.
I'd give it like an 8. It moved the story forward. We got some interesting developments. It wasn't as exciting as some of the other episodes to me, but I really enjoyed it.
Gotcha. What do you think, Matt?
Matthew?
Matt? Well, Matt quit. Well, Brandi would
7.5. It wasn't. It was all right. It didn't creep me out like the other episode did.
Yeah.
I'm about the same spot at about a 7 on this particular episode. I didn't hate it or anything. Still enjoyed it. But like I said, there was that weak point I was talking about at the beginning of this review. But then we also have the fact that nobody's head got bashed in by a door, so it got deducted point.
That gave it points for me.
Yeah. I don't think that should deduct a point, because I guarantee you that does not happen again in this series.
Thank you.
Yeah, but they're probably going to replace it with other stuff, you know. But we do get to the beginning of the next episode called Condemned. And this is I thought this episode was pretty interesting, but it starts out, we come back into the cold open again. Daredevil's there with the cops. You know, that's where the cliffhanger kind of left off on. The cops are there. They're telling him to get on his knees and all this stuff. But then he's able to, like, because of the supersonic hearing kind of stuff going on, he pretty much knows, oh, there's an issue here, and these cops aren't legit. And he goes beating those cops' asses, and then he gets Vladimir and gets the hell out of there.
It's interesting. They try to kill the cops are there to try to kill Vladimir. They shoot Vladimir in the side, in the middle of all of this, and then the other guy, who I think was Sergey, is there. Daredevil does not take him with him, and one of the cops just shoots him in the head.
Yep. Takes his ass out.
Yep.
And I think the old reporter guy, wasn't his name Ben?
Ben Urich, yeah.
So Ben's here. He's overlooking things. Not a lot here. It's just showing that he's working on the stuff behind the scenes. He's kind of trying to connect the dots. But I will ask this. Why do y'all think he picked the King of Diamonds?
I think
the
he picked
king.
the king.
The king that runs it all.
Yeah,
well, I know why he picked the king, but I just didn't know if y'all thought that the diamond part of it meant anything.
I don't think it does. I mean, I think that was just the suit of cards. I don't remember if the others were diamonds too, but they, from my recollection at this moment, they were all red cards. So could be, maybe, that he just picked the suit of diamonds for all of these cards, but I don't remember exactly.
He was using different suits on the board. I was just thinking about it because when you think about the top, you would always, most of the time, because of certain card games, gives them the highest up. Like, for instance, like if you're playing spades, the King of Spades is going to be like one of the highest cards and not the King of Diamonds. So that was the only reason why I even thought about it. But we do get over to Fisk and the glass. Old Mr. Glasses over here. They're talking about what's going down.
His name is Wesley.
But they're talking about what's going down and how everything's working out. But they end up finding out that the masked man and Vladimir ends up getting away. They didn't die in the explosions. And they're pretty much saying, like, well, the cops are going to have that whole area sweep. They're not going to be able to get out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, it just goes to show you how much the police force Fisk controls.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a scene right after what we just talked about where you had the guy that was, like, partially exploded. He's laying there. He's got rebar and everything stuck through him. And the cop just walks in there and starts stepping on it to try to get him to give out information and then just shoots him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tells the whole force that's with him, you know, maybe it wasn't like the whole police force, but it was at least like, you know, 6 or 7 other people that were with him at the time. If you see anybody alive, just kill him.
Yep.
He's like, now I understand Brandi brought the point to where, you know, Daredevil got beat up a little bit and his face was immaculate, didn't have any bruises or nothing like that. I can get down with that a little bit. I can headcanon some stuff, but this next part, Daredevil holding Vladimir, looks like he ran city blocks, and he wasn't just walking with a guy; he was running, carrying this guy. Now that was unbelievable. I mean, he would have to have some kind of like super strength or some shit. There ain't nobody running with.
I don't know about that part.
He's running with him. Like I said, he wasn't like he was walking and struggling. He was like basically jogging with this guy on his back. But he gets him to the building. And that's pretty much where this episode almost all hit.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
like-
the building and the hospital and the car that Fisk is in are the three scenes in this.
Yeah, pretty much. But we got Vladimir. He's about to die, so Daredevil's going to have to stop him from dying. She's still trying to get information. We go down to the hospital.
Because he
We
got
see-
shot again from the other cops that they've tried to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that dude's messed up. Like, he's dying.
Yeah, because he got hurt from the thing, and then the cops got them, and they put handcuffs on Daredevil, and then shot him in the leg, and then Daredevil got them all pretty much. And then the guy that's the cop tells them,
I mean, he
"Hey,
got blown up, beat up by Daredevil, and shot by once or twice from some cops.
Yeah.
Like, Vladimir over here, I got to give him some, at least a little bit of respect. Like, he's hanging in there pretty much, but he's dying and bleeding out and all this good stuff. And Daredevil's trying to get information. We go to the hospital. Of course, it's chaotic because like 4 areas got just blown to bits. So there's all kinds of people needing help and everything else. We got the night nurse down in here. She goes back to her job to like start helping out and all this stuff because she knew it was going to be chaotic. I guess we meet one of her bosses, and then we get her on the phone with Daredevil, and this is where Daredevil was like, "Hey, I need your help to try to save this guy that tried to kill you."
Well, before we get her on the phone with Daredevil, we also established that Foggy is injured. She takes Mrs. Cardenas back to start helping her, and that's when Karen realizes that Foggy has like a big wound in his side and he's bleeding through his shirt. So that establishes where they are for there. Yeah, I like the fact that Claire, even in the midst of all this, is still answering the burner phone from Matt because she knows that he needs some sort of assistance, even though other people in that hospital also desperately need her assistance at that moment.
Hey, that kiss was powerful. That's all I can say. And then I can also say I forgot about the Foggy thing being injured because he became pretty much worthless when he was like having to touch homegirl's face because we know she likes Matt. Get out of here, Senor Fargay.
He didn't touch her face. She touched his face.
No, he touched
He
her
touched
face.
hers.
Yeah,
Oh.
they touched each other's face.
Well,
They were face touching.
Yeah.
I just said that as a joke. I don't really think that. But we're going down to the Vladimir over here. He's having to cover his mouth because he's like freaking got a basically like I almost said torch, but it's like a flare that's on fire that's stopping him from bleeding and everything else. We have the cops showing up at these buildings and searching and everything else, and that's why he's having to cover his mouth so like they don't get caught.
But that one cop hears him.
Yeah, what an idiot. He'd been on the force not even that long.
2 months
in. Yeah, 2 months. Steps in here, gets his ass whooped pretty quick. He's getting choked out. Daredevil says, "I'm gonna stop choking you, but I need you to, do this or that." And then he tells him to like get on the his thing and say, "Hey, this was like a false alarm." And this idiot that is obviously going to, like in any other situation, would immediately get killed. So starts yelling where they're at.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, luckily for him, it's Daredevil and not a real like criminal or something, because he would have literally died in the split second he said that. Like,
yeah.
So this guy's pretty stupid. I mean, I guess he doesn't care about himself or maybe even his family. So the cops show up outside, the whole squad, they were all spread out. You got Ben, the reporter, showing up. You got the dirty detectives and their crew showing up, and they're basically standing outside. But another thing that happens here is they're trying to make it look like that Daredevil has a hostage and a big suspect of the bomb and Vladimir with him. So they're trying to make him look bad in the public eyes and the press and stuff like that.
Yeah. Their plan to make Daredevil, the Man in the Mask, publicly responsible for the bombings is really interesting, and it just shows you the depth of like how detailed their plan can get for something like this. So I found it a fascinating development that they're like, oh yeah, contact all the people that we know in the media and get them down there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they got down there fast.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. But yes, Adelia.
Okay.
Yes, Adelia. Then we go back to Daredevil, and there's just like a lot of dialogue and stuff like that, which I found interesting and cool. You know, between him and Vladimir. Vladimir's obviously he's not dead; he's still alive. You know, they're talking and everything else. Well, Vladimir, this guy, been blown up, shot. We already talked about. He's already technically pretty much almost died once, but Daredevil saved him with the flare and stopped the bleeding and everything. Out of nowhere, gets up with a board and commences to start trying to whoop Daredevil's ass, which then caused them the Daredevil to tackle him, and then they fall through this floor of this old building, and they not just fall through one, they fall through 2 floors, land on the ground above, and pretty much knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy, Vladimir, he was becoming one of my favorites of all time. I mean, this guy, he's a badass. Like, no doubt about it. You survive all that and can still go through that. And get this, guys, he's not dead on the ground. He's almost dead, but he's still, after the fall, is still not dead. But you can see Ben trying to put 2 and 2 together here outside, you know, with the detectives and all that good stuff. Now, he doesn't know these detectives are dirty per se, but you can tell he's trying to like put some stuff together.
Yeah.
So you got that going on. We go back to the hospital and we get another scene with like Fogay and Karen over here. And Karen leaves saying she's going to go make sure, you know, whatever. They can't get a hold of Daredevil. Fogay, when she leaves the room, tries to call him one more time to see. And then Daredevil wakes up bleeding from the mouth. And there goes old Vladimir just kind of looking at him. Mm-hmm. He can't move at the moment, but he's looking at him.
Vladimir says he's glad to see him bleed.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm talking about, man. This guy doesn't give a shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't. And then he dies. And the funny part is Daredevil's having to save his life not once, but twice in this one episode. Yeah. Because it gives him basically like CPR and hits him one time in the chest and like wakes him up. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was pretty cool. Because like, so I guess now, you know, I guess that shows that they have a little bit of a bond because at least Daredevil is like trying to keep him alive and not trying to kill him. So maybe he's slowly earning old Vladimir's respect.
Well, he's telling him that he doesn't kill people because he wasn't the one to kill his brother. Because that's Vladimir thought he was the one to kill his brother, and he's like, "You killed people. You dropped the guy off of the thing." He goes, "But he was alive still, right? Like he was. Yep. May have been in a coma, but he was still alive."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you find out that it was Fisk doing it all. You know.
But that does lead to one of the more interesting and probably my favorite scene in this episode is just 2 guys talking on walkie-talkies because with all that's happening, Daredevil and them had a walkie-talkie and Fisk was able to like get on one and they actually had their first conversation. Daredevil and Fisk talk to each other on walkie-talkies.
I love that Fisk ends this by saying, "We'll never speak again."
Yeah.
You know they're going to.
Yeah, they're gonna speak a lot.
Yeah. I really enjoy this conversation they have on the walkie-talkies because Fisk thinks he's got everything under control and Daredevil's realizing how in deep he is now because Fisk has framed him for all of this that night. But he's still insistent that they are not alike because they're not. But they are in many ways, but they're not in important ways. And I do love that they got to have that conversation. The cops clearing a channel so he can use the police walkie-talkie that Daredevil has to talk to him. It's just it's really cool, actually, the way they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And that one, because it's really kind of the same scene is like him and Vladimir talking afterwards too. You know, I think all that kind of runs together. Now, Daredevil does find there's like a manhole in this room that connects to tunnels below. So then you kind of realize, well, this is how he's going to get out eventually. We just got to get to that point. And then we have, I don't know, maybe just to cause some more commotion or distraction. We had like some dude that they put on the roof and starts like shooting people. And he shoots one of the cops, one of the detectives.
But he was aiming for Ben.
They were framing.
Yeah, he was trying to get the reporter. Ben,
and he got Detective Blake and just killed another couple of cops. Mm-hmm. More stuff to frame Daredevil for.
Yeah.
It was like, damn, we got shots fired at the police standoff. Damn, we got shots, we got explosions. Everything's going to hell.
Mhm.
in a handbasket, as they say. Then we go back to old Karen over here and the Falgay in the hospital, and then that's when they see the news reports and everything else. And then we also see the night nurse. Like, she sees the reports and she knows Daredevil's involved, so she's like calling him. That ain't your ass over there shooting those cops, is it? And stuff like that. And obviously it's not. But the SWAT team that they had come in, they're obviously dirty. They coming in to kill everybody that's in this building. They start breaking in and all that good stuff. We see the Daredevil, the bonding moment of Daredevil trying to get the manhole open, and then all of a sudden 2 other hands grab the other side, and it's Vladimir. Should have been dead 5 times ago.
How he has the strength to do this, I don't know.
But he helps open up and pull up the man cover. They get up in the tunnel below. But when we get there, Vladimir's finally like, bro, listen, my plot armor has been destroyed. I have no more. Like, it's time that I have to go. He accepts defeat because Daredevil gets in a fight with a couple of those SWAT team members, and he beats the hell out of them. And as that's going on, Vladimir ends up getting one of the machine guns that the SWAT team member had. And he's like kind of pointing it at Daredevil, and then they have another conversation. But he's basically saying, I'm about to sacrifice myself for you just because now I just want revenge for my brother, and I want you to be able to take out Fisk. So he's basically giving him some information that would possibly help him out going forward when he finally does face Fisk. So he's like, bro, get out of here. I'm going to stay and be sacrificed.
They let him know that the other dude's names.
Yeah, the money
Leland
guy.
Owlsley, the accountant for everything Fisk does. So that'll come into play soon. I really liked this end for Vladimir's character. It shows that, like, he's like, okay, accepting that Fisk is really behind all of this, and Fisk is the one that killed his brother, and Fisk is the one that's ruined his whole operation with these bombings and everything that night. And so there's nothing left for him. They're gonna hunt Vladimir until he dies. So he just decides to save the guy that can possibly stop Fisk in Daredevil and go out in a blaze of bullets, which we hear as Daredevil's walking down another tunnel later on.
And that ends the episode. And
but they killed the other cop while they were doing that too.
Yeah, they killed the one that had only been working for 2 months, Officer Sullivan, who is not a dirty cop.
No, and he was tied up. And they said they put it in the thing. Oh, cop dead, and he's like, what? And they stab him in the neck.
Yep.
Yeah, that's more we won't say personal too. Like, that just makes it even worse that he stabs him and just doesn't shoot him. Like, it is what it is. But that ends our episode. R.I.P. to Vladimir. I want to give y'all guys give me just 1 second, because I want to have a slight little couple seconds moment of retrospective and like silence for Mr. Vladimir for all he had to go through in this episode and stayed alive for that long. And then I'm going to give one of my sweet renditions of a part of a song to give Vladimir proper respects as he's going out. It goes a little something like this.
Let's make this clear. You are doing this for the character that was in charge of them kidnapping people, including children.
I can fly higher than any eagle.
Justin, no.
Listen.
No.
I mean, listen, I get it. I understand it, but I also understand this whole thing's fake. But this particular character in this episode, if you take all the bad things that happened in all the episodes before it, this guy was the true superhero, right? He was the guy who couldn't be killed, but he was just a normal man. He was just a normal guy. My man, he basically almost became John Wick this episode.
He died twice.
Except for John Wick never dies. This guy, it finally died in this episode. But before that, he was like the John Wick, man. Listen, I can't believe the guy could even talk after halfway through this episode and somehow was able to defend off the SWAT team so Daredevil could escape. You know what I'm saying? So give the man a little bit of, respect, I guess, or whatever. But let's go down. Got any last thoughts?
I'll give some respect to the actor that played Vladimir. I thought he did a really good job. I mean, it's really hard to play a character that's that injured, I feel like. I thought he did good. And I do think Vladimir was very important in this episode. I'm not going to sing hymns or whatever you're doing over there, Justin, over Vladimir's death, because he was a horrible, horrible person.
Listen,
But,
in this particular
he was
episode,
important.
he was the wind beneath my wings.
That wasn't him. That was Bette Midler. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's right.
I know.
He was,
I know it was. I'm just saying I don't know what Justin's doing over there.
my whole point
Um,
was is that he was the wind beneath my wings, because this episode, if it wasn't for that guy in this episode, it may have gotten a lower score. It may have got the lowest score that I have given so far for this series. But because I think he did such a good job, like you said, the actor and everything else, the character, all that, and how it was done, like it's going to raise the score up a little bit. Like he was the wind beneath my wings. I was like flying like this. So,
You're
yeah,
flying
so
all
that's
right.
Blob
You're
Bear.
flying right to something else.
But all right, guys, any last words? We'll go down the line like we always do. Any last little comments or whatever about the 2 episodes we watched, and give us that score of this episode.
I thought they were very good. I'd give this episode like a 7.5. I don't like it as much as the previous episode, but it's not the worst episode either. I thoroughly enjoy this show, and it's going very well so far.
Right. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I'd give it a 7.5 too. I like the show a lot, and it's getting better as it goes along.
And Brandi.
Same, about 7.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give, I think these 2 episodes were kind of around the same kind of little area for me. But even though like there has been some shows that we have graded here recently, you know, doing the post credits, where I was consistently like, some of them have been real good, like 8.5, 9s, sometimes even 9.5s, you know, grades on almost every episode. And this show hasn't had those high of a scores, but it's still like a super great, super good, super fun, super entertaining show, right? It hasn't gave us, you know, an episode so far that was sorry, Brandi, I'm gonna apologize before, you know, whatever, but it's not my fault. You brought this to my attention before we started recording. So I was thinking about it. So I'm using the analogy of, it hasn't gave us that stinker like one of Brandi's farts, you know, episode yet that
One
like
of Justin's
really,
farts?
that really just, you know, the
Farts?
silent but deadly one that comes out of nowhere,
That
you know,
Justin gives.
that takes us out, you know, of the season or anything. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you guys. I'm at about a 7.5 for both episodes here, and them being back to back like that.
Is that a
But
B plus?
this is something that I do want to say too, though, is these were like back when they did actually more than just 8 episodes. This is a 13 episode season, and you're going to have like a couple of episodes in there. Like I just see from this point on, I think this was that middle section, right? You got to get through, give a little story, give a little, hey, this is how we're going to get there, character plot points and all that good stuff. And then on our next episodes, it's going to be, so it's like it starts high, kind of crescendos a little bit because you're just learning some things, so it's not as exciting, but then it's going to start going back up, and I think that's what's about to happen. That's what I foresee happening in this season of Daredevil.
As long as there's no more beheadings.
Well, I might have to give it lower scores.
I don't remember any more beheadings. I'll say that much.
Man, that's gonna suck. No more jelly.
Sucks worse than Justin's farts.
Wow, man, shit, girl. You know what? When I'm about to hit this button, and I hope you fart on yourself again.
I'll fart on you.